दिव्य ज्योति ज्ञान ज्योति प्रेम ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ साई मन मंदिर में अखंड ज्योति जलाओ साई मन मंदिर में अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ कोटि सूर्य सम तेज स्वरूपा कोटि सूर्य सम तेज स्वरूपा साई तुम हो दिव्य स्वरूपा साई तुम हो दिव्य स्वरूपा अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ अखंड ज्योति जलाओ दिव्य ज्योति ज्ञान ज्योति प्रेम ज्योति जलाओ दिव्य ज्योति ज्ञान ज्योति प्रेम ज्योति जलाओ अखंड 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 ज्योति जलाओ साई मन मंदिर में अखंड ज्योति जलाओ।
Offering our loving pranams at the lotus feet of our ever-present Master and Lord, and to all of our brothers and sisters and our revered elders, in whose heart this beautiful flame of love for God brightens up more and more each day. Our pranams to all of you. We take this as an opportunity to thank each and every one of you to have us here. And just being a part of the opening ceremony this morning was an absolutely exhilarating experience. And thanks to all the brothers and sisters who performed so beautifully and brought Swami so much closer to us. I just hope that after a very sumptuous lunch, that we can actually continue to take that flame higher and burn brighter. And I hope that you help us in doing that. Was the lunch really good? Okay, then that makes it even more difficult for us. This beautiful bhajan that we just sang, which is Akhanda Jyoti Jalao, is something that is a prayer in every heart of ours, isn't it? Let that flame of love for God keep burning more and more, brighter each and every moment, each and every second of our existence.
When Brother Shivendra approached us last year and told us about this conference, and when he introduced the theme to us, that is Boomerang, back to the source, it set us thinking actually, because it is a very It's a wonderful theme, and it is very deep in the sense that when we sat down to discuss how do we look at this particular theme, and we had our own, little bit of engagement and dialogue about it. When we spoke about this boomerang being thrown, and that's the first session that we are talking about, powering the launch of the throw. And when we discussed, what do you mean by throwing a boomerang and asking it to come back to the source? So when you say it comes back to the source, it's coming back to where it originally was. So is there, in our understanding, is there anything different from the source and the boomerang? Because it is the journey of the boomerang. The boomerang is the source, the boomerang is the destination itself. And we extended that analogy to say that the human birth is that launch that each and every one of us have. That journey which we take is the journey of our human birth. And this human birth, we go past the same conditions and the weather and the various difficulties that the boomerang also encounters to come back to its source. So this human birth is, actually we are all boomerangs in a sense. The moment we are born, we take off from the source, and the purpose of the entire journey is to go back to the source itself.
And we were actually wondering, so who is the boomerang and who is the thrower? Who's throwing whom? Has Swami thrown us away from himself? And if, what is the whole game about the thing? If Swami is going to throw us only to bring us back, then why did he throw us in the first place? Right? So who is the boomerang and how do we get back? Right? So in fact, when we were deliberating upon this, we just thought that we ourselves are the boomerang, and it is our mind which has left our source, and now it is the purpose of our mind to go back to the soul. Right? So is that okay with everyone? So who is throwing whom? We are throwing ourselves. In fact, we have left our path. We should have been always in the source, but for some strange reason, we are now away from the source. Right? And we all have gathered here to find out, now how do we go back from where we came from? So now for this boomerang, is there any eligibility? Why are we all over here? Is there any eligibility criteria for us to become good boomerang throwers? Right? So we were just thinking about, why are we eligible for this journey back to the source? What makes us those boomerangs that are supposed to return back to the source? It is in a beautiful book which is called Viveka Chudamani, which is written by Adi Shankaracharya, in which he says that there are three criteria for self-realization or going back to the source. So he gives us three criteria to go back to the source. What are these criteria? The first criteria, and you'll soon come to know how lucky and how beautiful these three criteria are. The first criteria is Manushyatvam, the second criteria is Mumukshatvam, and the third criteria is Mahapurusha Samshrayaha. He says these are the only three criteria necessary to go back to the source. What is that? The first one is Manushyatvam, which is having a human birth. Wow. So we have already ticked off the first box. Let's congratulate ourselves for that. Right? We have fulfilled the first criteria for self-realization. The reason I say this is, it is only the human birth that can get self-realized. No other birth can achieve self-realization, including Godhead. Even the gods, they say, look forward to a human birth in order to get self-realization. Right? So many congratulations to all of you. First criteria ticked. The second criteria is Mumukshatvam, which is an intense desire to get back to the source, right? There are 7 billion human beings on Earth, and so in that sense, we are not like an extinct species or nowhere close to extinction, at least as of now. We soon may be with artificial intelligence, right? But as of now, right, the reason why these 900 people and the several hundreds of devotees who flock to Bhagwan, one of the purpose of their coming to Swami is that intense desire to go back to the source. So guess what? Once again, a second time congratulations to all of you for ticking off the second box also, right? Yeah, that was very awe-inspiring. That clap,
No.
No, that's...
No, actually, hang on. Probably that was very well done. Actually, a muffled clap for the second point is probably very good. We'll find out why.
Yeah. The third criteria for us to go back to the source is what is called as Mahapurusha Samshraya, which is not only to have a human birth, not only to have the intense desire to go back to the source, but a guide who can take us back to the source. And guess what? Imagine if I say that the source himself comes into our lives to take us back to himself, right? And so for a third time, we have such a person in our midst, and for the third time, let's congratulate ourselves, because even the third box has been ticked. So one of the reasons why we are here and why we are eligible as boomerangs to go back to the source is we fulfill all the three beautiful criteria which are meant for us. How much better can that get, right? How much better can our life get?
So what do we need to make this take off? You know, the first time the boomerang leaves, you need the impetus to take off. So as Amey was saying, these three boxes need to be ticked off so that we qualify as boomerangs. So we have the first, we are born as human beings, yes, and we have Mahapurushasya Samshraya, we have the Lord himself as our guru. The second one, Mumukshatvam, where we had kind of a little doubtful, do we have that intense desire? We have the desire, definitely, that's why we are all here sitting together. We have that desire to go back to our Lord, to go back to our source. But what do we do in order to make that really, really strong? I'm reminded of a story here of, there was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, guru of Swami Vivekananda. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was once asked by a disciple that, Swamiji, so what is mumukshatvam? What is that intense desire that I must have for liberation? What is that intense desire? Then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did not answer him. He kept repeating this question many times. He never gave him a reply. One day, Lord Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was going for a bath to the river, and he took this disciple along, and he asked the disciple to have a dip in the river. As the disciple had a dip in the river, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa caught hold of his head and held it underwater. And the disciple was gasping for breath. He didn't leave. He said, you know, the bubbles coming out and he is nearly drowning. He didn't leave. He didn't leave his head. Kept it underwater for so long, till the disciple thought, yes, he is going to die. At that moment, Lord Ramakrishna Paramahamsa took his head out of the water and he gasped. He gasped out to his master. He said, why did you do this? Were you trying to murder me, Lord? And then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa tells him, what did you feel? I felt the intense desire to breathe. I wanted oxygen in my lungs. He said, when you have that kind of a desire for liberation, that is mumukshatvam. When you feel that is the only thing you need in life, now I need liberation more than anything else. And that kind of an intense desire, when that meets our Lord, then we know that we are on this path. So how do we get this intense desire? Yeah, we are all born as human beings, we have got this guru, but how do we get this intense desire? Otherwise it should be a part and parcel of each of us, right?
Correct. Mostly our intensity comes on a Thursday or a Sunday evening, and probably this morning as we were registering, oh my God, I am going to get self-realization today, and promptly on Sunday in the evening at 6:30 when you go back to the intensity reduces and we are back to where we started from.
So probably the intensity comes when there is sustained focus, not just focus, but you sustain the focus. Yes. Probably what we would call as a boot camp, right? The Australian team, for instance, they've identified the 15 players for the World Cup. I'm sure they'll meet together and have a boot camp to increase their chances. Now, what they're going to do in the camp is going to be that sustained, focused, your intensity is kind of generated, and you try to sustain that so that you go there and give that kind of a performance. Now, but the thing with the camp is, you don't go to the camp for learning from scratch. You go there for honing, meaning you already have it, but you're going there to kind of sharpen your skills, improve your skills. So it's got probably a boot camp, in a sporting boot camp, you would have mental conditioning. It would not just be the physical fitness, the mental conditioning. It could also be inspiration that you see when you see your fellow players perform. You look up to them for inspiration, the way they pick up themselves and the way they deliver their performances. You want to match their standards, and that could be your goal that you set for the camp. So in a way, what we have come here for over the next 3 days is a kind of a boot camp.
Yes, powering the launch, right? So we are at a boot camp.
We are at the whole program itself, the next 3 days, right? So our journey back to the source, how do we sustain and how do we focus our intensity towards going back to the source? The best part about this camp is that the coach of this camp is the Lord himself. Like Brother Amey was saying, the Lord himself is here to show us the way to go get back to him. And he covers a part of the journey towards us to make that journey that much more easier for us.
Wow, fantastic. So what more can we ask for? We have the Lord, God, the Almighty, our Guru as our coach, right? So a quick story of Bhagwan, because that is only through his life and through our experiences with him that we can tell you what the coach told us, right? So once Swami was sitting with lots of students, and as usual, there was a chit-chat, the divine chit-chat, and all of a sudden he asks all the students, he says, what is the rarest phenomenon in this world? What is the rarest phenomenon in this world? And, everybody, most of the boys they answered back saying, Swami, mukti, self-realization is the rarest thing. Obviously, right? How many self-realized beings do you know? 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So obviously that's the rarest thing. And Swami vigorously nodded saying, absolutely not. Self-realization is the eventual destiny of every human being. If not now, at some point of time in the future, but it is the divine destiny of every single human being, and therefore it is definitely not the rarest. There are 7 billion of us who are going to get self-realized, at least, right? Okay, oh my God. So that was like a shot in the, out of the blue. So then what is the rarest? And usually when Swami asks a question, the best thing is to shut up, right? The best thing is to just shut up and listen to what he has to say. And so all the boys did that. And then Swami said, the rarest phenomenon in this world is to have God in human form walk on earth. How many times in the history of mankind? No, just to explain that. Our earth, our universe itself has been for at least 14 billion years. The earth has been around for about 4 million years. The human beings have walked on this earth for about 400,000 years. In 400,000 years, how many times has God walked on earth? Countable on, the fingertips. So is that not the rarest phenomenon? And then Swami goes on to say, even rarer than God walking in human form is the opportunity to know that God is walking in human form. When God walks in human form, hardly anybody knows. Probably this was the only avatar that millions of people knew. Otherwise, even Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Jesus, imagine today is the most solemn day of Good Friday, a day when the Lord was crucified, right? Nobody understood his divinity, right? Imagine that. Hardly anyone understands. We are lucky that we were some of those who knew of God walking in human form. And then Swami goes on to say, even rarer than that, even rarer to know about God walking in human form is to get a chance to serve God walking in human form. So, dear brothers and sisters, we are the rarest of the rare breeds. If there is one breed which is on the verge of extinction, and hopefully not, it is these 900. Right? That is how rare the species is, to know that God is walking in human form and to get the opportunity to serve God walking in human form.
Isn't that the speciality of the Satya Sai organization? The Satya Sai International Organization, of which we are all a part here, or the organization back in India, that actually is the boot camp which Siddartha was mentioning about, where we all get honed, all our skills get honed, all our desires become more intense to reach Swami. And that is the organization which gives us the opportunity to serve. So since morning, we have heard a lot of people talking about love all, serve all. And this is the instrument, the organization is the instrument which allows us to do this. And guess what? What is the speciality of this organization? It is the Satya Sai organization. Yes, so what? You have so many XYZ organizations. Satya Sai organization was started by Satya Sai. How many organizations, spiritual organizations in the world do we have that was started by the Guru himself and which has seen the glory of its days? So our real luck and good fortune is that Satya Sai has started this organization and we are all a part of this. So what is this? Who is this Guru? Who is this Guru and what is so special about him? Any idea what?
Well, I think, the point that brother made, even Christianity was not founded by Jesus Christ. It was founded 200 years after Jesus Christ left, right? Look at any of the major religions that we have in the world today, none of them were founded by the founders. In fact, in 1967, at the First World Conference, Swami makes this point. Swami says that there are several spiritual organizations in the world. This is the only organization which has been started when the form of the Lord is on earth. No other organization has that fortune, that great good fortune. So probably that is one of the unique things.
It is out of his immense compassion for humanity that he has started this. It is out of his immense compassion that he has started any of the little projects that Swami has started. In fact, I remember about the super specialty hospital at Puttaparthi in 1991 when the designs had just come up. And it was a huge project, size of which had not been seen anywhere close to Puttaparthi, which was a small village which was just known for little things, apart from Swami being the grand thing there. As a social project, this was the one huge project which was undertaken. And one of Swami's very elder senior devotees, Mr. Raman Rao, he went up to Swami and saw this mammoth building coming up. And he said, Swami, what a great plan you have made. Bringing up such a hospital here, what a great plan. And Swami told him, is this a plan? You're calling this a plan? This whole universe is my sankalpa, Swami said. When this whole complex universe is my sankalpa, a small hospital that is coming up here, you're being awed by its plan, it is nothing. So this is the Swami we are talking about, whose organization we are all lucky to be part of. For what? The plans that he has given us in the boot camp. He is our chief mentor in our boot camp and says, follow these things, you will do well in your path back to me.
So on this, just to sing this beautiful bhajan which talks about the grandeur of this master and coach that we have.
ब्रह्मांड नायका बाबा पतिपुरीश्वर बाबा ब्रह्मांड नायका बाबा पतिपुरीश्वर बाबा चांद और सूरज तुमने बनाए चांद और सूरज तुमने बनाए नदियाँ सागर तुमने बनाए नदियाँ सागर तुमने बनाए नदियाँ सागर तुमने बनाए नदियाँ सागर तुमने बनाए ब्रह्मांड नायका बाबा पतिपुरीश्वर बाबा ब्रह्मांड नायका बाबा पतिपुरीश्वर बाबा अयोध्या नगरी तुमने बनाई द्वारक नगरी तुमने बसाई अयोध्या नगरी तुमने बनाई द्वारक नगरी तुमने बसाई शिरडी परती तुमने बनाई शिरडी परती तुमने ब्रह्मांड नायका बाबा परदिपुरीश्वर बाबा.
Now, when we talk about this Brahmanda Nayak, the Lord of the cosmos, and when we spoke about the organization that He has given us, a gift that He has given us, another point that struck us was that His life is verily woven into the fabric of this organization. It's not just that He has founded this organization, it's not that just He has lent His name to the organization, but the organization is built on His life. Swami would always say that His life is His message. And it is verily true with the case of the organization, because whatever activities that Swami always liked and practiced, and that is exactly what the organization looks to replicate in places, all over the world. Just to add on, how many disciples do we know of great masters who had access, like intimate access to the master's life? Most masters would have a handful of disciples. But in the case of Bhagwan, all of us can say that we have had that great privilege and fortune to be physically close to Him, to see His life in such close quarters, where every minute or every second with Him would be education for a lifetime. Like the smallest of messages that we could take from His actions would be great messages that we could translate in our own lives. And the organization, another point to make, is that Swami has given us a platform where we can emulate His life which He lived in the service of the poor and the downtrodden, and how He tried to bring Ananda to those who were deprived of it. He has given us a platform of Sri Satya Sai organization through which each and every one of us can emulate the actions of Bhagwan. Emulate, we say emulate and we stress on emulate because today it is fashionable to imitate, right? We are not here to imitate Bhagwan, but we are here to emulate Bhagwan. And there's a lot of difference between the two. So this organization is that platform for us where we can try to, in our own little way, even if we are able to say 10% or 15% of what Swami achieved in his lifetime, if we are able to do in our lifetime through this organization, we would be achieving so much.
I think that's a very beautiful point that Brother Siddartha makes. How many of us have actually had a chance? Oftentimes probably you all will say, you students were lucky, you were close to Swami. But how many avatars can we talk about who were captured more than this avatar, right? His voice. We have His voice 24/7 with us. We have His written word 24/7 with us. We have Him in all His moods, right? Have you ever seen, an angry Jesus Christ photo? Never. But we have seen enough angry Swami photographs, right?
Which we need.
Yeah. And we actually paste them all over our house. For what? Because when we do something wrong, we just look at this one photograph and, I think, I am being caught. So much that I can very quickly narrate one of our brothers, how stupid we were as Sai students, I can tell you. One of the brothers, instead of coming for darshan, he was first standard kid, right from first standard onwards. For 17 years, he was in the institute. So every day, darshan is usual. But there was this good movie coming, So instead of going for darshan, he went to his home to watch a movie. And as he was watching the movie, suddenly he sees there was a calendar of Swami next to him. Okay. And so he looks at the calendar and says, oh my God, better go to Mandir. So he switched off and he goes to Mandir, and he's sitting over there, and Swami walks up to him and says, where were you? Where were you? Okay, and he thought, oh my God, how did he know that? Okay, and this happens to all of us, right? So the next day, there was the part 2 of the movie, and so he went back home and he was watching that, and before he switched on the TV, he thought mostly Swami is watching me through this calendar, so he rolls up the calendar. He rolls up the calendar, puts it aside, and nicely enjoys the movie. Okay, after the movie got over, he goes to Mandir, and Swami walks up to him and says only one thing: Swami doesn't live in a calendar. Right? That is our Swami, who is with us every single moment of our lives. And it is this Swami who has given us this beautiful organization, not to become something else, but just to become our own beautiful selves who we are. Right? Take up any path, take up any religion, right? Take up any of your, for example, this is the only organization, a lot of people say, so what is the Satya Sai organization, what do you have? Do you have like one buzzword? Guess what? Everything is a buzzword for us, right? Come and practice any path of your choice. If it is devotional singing, do it in the Satya Sai organization. If it is seva, do it in the Satya Sai organization. If you're a dancer, dance in the Satya Sai organization. If you're a painter, come and paint in the Satya Sai organization. Do anything you want, offer it to God, your life becomes sacred. That is the modus of this organization. How many organizations can talk about this, right? We can be a good cook, we can be anything. Swami has given us those many paths, to be in this organization to practice. So we don't have to have any Kriya yoga, this yoga, that yoga, nothing. Take up any one path of your choice. Practice it through. But just like the army, or for example, you go to a boot camp, you have a training camp for the army. There are a few things that everybody must know. Yes or no? Right? You go to the army, they say that there are two things that every army person must know. Irrespective of whether they are in the engineering or whether they are in the medical division or they are in artillery or in infantry, there are two things that every army guy should know. What is that? They should know how to shoot a gun, and they should know march past. Okay, marching and shooting a gun is absolutely common. Everybody should know. You can't say that, no, I'm a doctor, I don't need to march. No, you jolly well march. Right? It's good for you. So similarly, in the Satya Sai organization, you may do anything, you may choose any path that you want, but there are two things that are absolutely common. And Swami would often say it as, Man mein Ram, Haath mein Kaam. That is, mind on him and his work on our hands, in our hands, right? That is the absolute bare minimum common. Whatever we do, we have to do it with our goal or our minds focused on him, centered upon him. It is for him that we are doing. Do whatever we want.
In fact, one of the discussions we were having when we were talking about the Satya Sai organization being the platform which allows us to do our seva is, do we need, somebody could argue and say, I don't need an organization to channelize my seva, my service to God. I'll do it by myself. I do it from home. But one person as an individual can only achieve this. But when we come together, Swami talks about, all the 10 fingers coming together to do a job, or a bunch of sticks being more difficult to break than one, single twig. So when we come together, our service becomes that much more possible. A group of 10 of us can do a huge Narayan Seva. Me as an individual, maybe I can feed one person. That is the way our coming together, our energies will come together and become much larger than what we are. So that is what the platform of the organization helps us to achieve. And as Amey was saying, Man mein Ram and Haath mein Kaam. So why do we need to do this? So even Lord Krishna, Swami in his previous avatar has said that, not just in this avatar where he said that, Namasmarana is the path. Lord Krishna told Arjuna that, take my name and go to war. That is what Lord Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita. Go to war, fight the Kauravas, but remember me, take my name and go to war. So that is how important it is, so that we are focused on why we are doing a certain job. Why do we need to keep the Lord's name in our mind? Because eventually we must not forget that we are trying to go back to the source. That is what we are essentially trying to do, and go on with our jolly jobs through the day. But never forget. And how do we not forget? By keeping him constantly in our mind. So how possible is that?
So Namasmaran, that is Man mein Ram, that is having the Lord's name on our lips, we came to the conclusion that that is the power that we need for that launch. So when we talk about powering the launch, a lot of the power will come from chanting his name. And even now he said, since we spoke about the army, or we spoke about Lord Krishna in the battlefield when he told Arjuna, we would have all heard the battle cries right? Har Har Mahadev, and they would go out, Jai Shri Ram, like the Vanaras did when they were marching into Lanka. The war cry is evoked for that particular reason. You take the name of the Lord with full josh, with full energy, to get the divine energy to carry out that particular task. And that is the name of the Lord, the power that the name of the Lord has, which if we take and if we go ahead with our everyday work, fighting the battle of life would be that much simpler.
In fact, calling out to the name of the Lord also has to remind us that that work is not important, but going back to the Lord through that work is more important. Oftentimes, otherwise we'll get lost. You know what, we often go to a bhajan, we go to a Narayan Seva, we don't enjoy it. Why? Because this auntie, this uncle, this kid didn't allow me to work. I wanted to do it in some way. I'm sure I see a lot of smiles here, right, when I say that, right? So oftentimes we kind of get lost in the work. Sorry, dear brothers and sisters, we are not here for the work. We are here to go back to the Lord, and work is one of the means by which we are going to go back to the Lord. Oftentimes we forget the end and we get lost in the means. Right? So when we cry out to the Lord, saying, Jai Sai Ram, when we say and we start the work, that is only to remind us that, yes, Sai Ram is the purpose of why I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Right? This Sai Ram is nothing but a detergent. We can also use it, the name of the Lord, Swami says, is what purifies the mind. And it is only a purified mind that can do a purified work. So oftentimes if you say, why do I have to chant his name? No need of chanting his name, isn't it? I can just do good work. Is not doing good work enough? No. Good work can lead to ego. Right? In order to remind ourselves all the time that work is not my purpose, but going back to the source is my purpose, you need, all the time this mind needs to be purified. All of us have bath. Hopefully we have bath. We all have bath in the morning. What do? We clean. Right? Every single day we clean. That name is the purifying detergent which cleans up our mind so that we can do the work better.
Yeah, in fact, Swami says, even when we are in the kitchen doing our dishes, he says, even use that little activity as a cleansing activity and chant my name even when you're washing vessels in the kitchen. Think that you're actually cleaning your insides. And if you're just watching the TV, I'm sure we are not thinking about cleaning our insides, doing the dishes and watching the TV. At that time, if we can be singing some bhajans or just chanting his name, we can be reminded that this activity is equal to cleaning our insides with his name. So can the Lord's name be a fuel for our boomerang to, really get the momentum so that it comes back? When we talk about powering the launch, how can the name be the fuel? How do we know that the name has this power? We can tell you a few stories, incidents, not stories actually. The primary school in Puttaparthi, where the little kids study. So when this was started way back in the early 1980s, the principal went up to Swami and said that, Swami, see, we are all ladies. We are a few ladies who are going to bring up these kids. And we have a lot of heavy work to do because there are hundreds of kids in the hostel. We have a lot of heavy lifting work, especially in the kitchen where we do the cooking. We have these huge vessels to lift, etc. So can we have 2 male members who can come and help us? Rest of us are all ladies. Swami only said one thing. He gave the principal the mantra. He said, chant my name and lift the vessels. And for years, for decades, there was no male member needed in the kitchen. So that is the mantra that they have followed from the day one. Taking Swami's name and lifting those huge
In fact, Muni auntie was telling us that for some strange reason, from that day onwards, the moment they would say Sai Ram and lift up, I don't know from where they got energy.
Vessels became lighter actually.
Yeah. Vessels became lighter.
Talking about the Lord's name and how it is so dear to him when we chant his name with full of feeling. The possibilities are endless. The vessels becoming lighter is only one of the possibilities. The possibilities are endless. This happened in 1993 when Bhagwan had gone to Vrindavan, as he usually would go, in the month of February or March. Bhagwan had gone to Vrindavan, and unusually that year he hadn't come back to Puttaparthi. He would usually come in the first week or the second week of June, and he hadn't returned. So the students in Prasanthi Nilayam were eagerly waiting for their turn for Swami to come back in their midst. And so they would write letters and give it to their teachers who would go to Vrindavan for darshan. And the teachers would request saying, Swami, please come, the students are waiting. And Swami hadn't come. The monsoons arrived, which is very unusual because Swami would definitely be in Prasanthi Nilayam by the time the monsoon starts. So the boys were at their wits' end. They really didn't know what more they had to do. And then obviously, it dawned upon them that they're not praying hard enough. So the boys in the hostel came up with this idea that they will do Akhand Namasmaran. They will be chanting Swami's name and they will not stop chanting till Swami comes back from Vrindavan. So this meant that they would do it in their hostel, in the prayer hall in the hostel. They said that at any point of time, there should be a minimum number of students who would be chanting his name, because they had to go ahead with the rest of their schedule, right? They would have their school and they would have to go for their dining sessions. So they said, we'll have a relay Namasmaran of sorts.
What was this? They were saying Om Shri Sai.
Om Shri Sai. Chanting Swami's name in relay. So they started, and so every class would take its turn, and there would be representation, someone who will be sitting there. The next class would come, and then the previous batch would get up and go. So they missed school, they didn't sleep. For all through the night, there was someone chanting, at least a small group chanting in the prayer hall. And this went on for 3 days, 3 whole days. Meanwhile, in Vrindavan, Swami obviously heard the anguish-filled hearts praying for him. Swami said, I want to go to Prasanthi Nilayam. And they said, Swami, actually there's still some renovation going on at that time, because they had detected that Swami's roof was leaking. When the monsoons came, they found that Swami's residence roof was leaking. They said, Swami, the roof is leaking. If you give a few more days, we'll finish that work and then Swami can go. Swami asked, you mean to tell me in entire Prasanthi Nilayam there is not one room for me to stay? You don't understand how badly I want to go back, because boys are praying for me. I need to go right now. And Swami, by the 3rd day, Swami had, literally the boys had pulled Swami just by chanting his name. The students managed to pull Swami to Prasanthi Nilayam. Swami reached and Swami said, I was drawn because of your prayer. The intensity with which you were all calling out to me, how could I stay there? It didn't matter to me whether my roof was leaking or not. I had to come back to you. And Swami used that as a pretense to come back, but drive home a very important point, that if there is intensity and if there is yearning with intensity, if you take his name with yearning and intensity, like I said, the possibilities are endless.
One final beautiful story that has inspired me a lot. It happened many years ago in the 1980s that Swami had sent the students to do Grama Seva, which is the village work, village seva. And after the students came back, Swami started asking, so how was it? How was the village seva? Did you enjoy it? And then Swami asked, so which village did you go to? And there's a village called Janakampalli near Puttaparthi. So some of the boys said, Swami, we went to Janakampalli. And so Swami said, oh, Janakampalli, do you know Radhamma? Okay, so who's this Radhamma now? Okay, so they were like, no Swami. And then Swami, okay, these are the boys who have gone to the village and come, they've come back. Swami is telling them the address of Radhamma's house. He's saying, that first house when you take a left turn, right turn, the first house on the... And they're like, okay, no, so many houses we served. And then Swami said, that lady who when you went, she gave you, a meat, a kind of a, savory ball to eat. And they say, yes, Swami, we remember. Yeah, we remember that. Then Swami says, she is Radhamma. Okay, thanks for introducing us. And Swami says, do you know what Radhamma does? They said, no, Swami. He said, Radhamma is a midwife. In the rural villages, they cannot run when they have delivery issues. They cannot run to the nearest hospital. The nearest hospital is probably 2 hours away. So there are some people who are trained to be nurses. And so she is one of the trained nurses. So Swami says that Radhamma is a midwife. And then Swami makes this statement. Swami says, she is the world's best midwife. Okay? Direct authentication. Okay, it's a certified midwife, the world's best midwife. And so, Swami would often say that, so all boys, okay, Swami, if you say so. And then Swami doesn't stop here. Swami goes on to say, do you know why she is the best midwife in the world? Swami says, there are thousands of pediatricians, there are thousands of nurses around the world, and yet Radhamma is the world's best midwife. So now Swami is not letting go of her. Huh? Swami is, kind of driving it in why she is the best midwife. And then Swami says, do you know? Because before every single delivery, when she's about to walk in, before she's about to help in the delivery, she says, Swami, you only do it through me. Okay, and then I listen to her and I become the midwife there, and I have to be the best in the world. Right? Dear brothers and sisters, each and every one of us have the ability, have the opportunity to be the best in the world. To be that boomerang which goes back to the source. All we need to do is, Swami, take over. Right? And he will be in every cell of our body. Right? That is the power of Swami's name. That once we call upon him, he comes into us. And once he comes into us, then we have to be the best in the world. Right? So let's end with this bhajan. And let's move on to the next topic. So having now launched with power, we'll move on to the next topic. We'll end with this bhajan.
हम सब मिलकर मंगल गाए,
हम सब मिलकर मंगल गाए।
साईं भगवान सत्य, साईं भगवान,
साईं भगवान सत्य, साईं भगवान,
साईं भगवान सत्य, साईं भगवान,
भगवान सत्य साईं भगवान।
सब सुख जीवन साईं भगवान,
सब सुख जीवन साईं भगवान,
सब दुख हरना साईं भगवान,
सब दुख
हरना साईं भगवान,
सत्य स्वरूपा साईं भगवान,
सत्य स्वरूपा साईं भगवान,
हृदय निवासा साईं भगवान,
हृदय निवासा साईं भगवान,
परते निवासी साईं भगवान,
निवासी साईं भगवान,
साईं भगवान सत्य 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 साईं भगवान। हम सब मिलकर मंगल गाए। Thank you, Sai Ram.